Hi, these comments are for MS. This is Michael, and I am from Better TOEFL Scores.com. You're getting ready to take the TOEFL exam in mid-January before the TOEFL changes its format completely. So you're completing, it looks like it's speaking task number 2 integrated. It's listening, actually, it's reading, listening, speaking, campus related. So let's listen to your practice test and I'll give you some feedback when I get
An
done.
announcement about the new refund policy in school. The reading passage contains an announcement about the new refund policy in school, and the speaker in the lecture disagrees with those changes. First of all, the reading passage explains that there will only be 3 reasons by which a student can ask for a 100% refund policy, which are either a written statement from a doctor signed by him in case of illness, or a death certificate that's verified, or a military duty order that's verified. After the end of the second week of classes, the students can file for 90% reimbursement. After the end of the fourth week, students are eligible for only 50%. Second of all, the speaker in the passage disagrees with those reasons. The speaker mentions that this is not enough and that the school should look into the cases by one-on-one cases. She gave the example of her mom falling sick. What can happen? She will lose eligibility for tuition refund? No, that's not logical. There needs to be more adaptability according to her. And she says that the policy is too rigid like that. Therefore, these are the reasons why the speaker believes this is not a good idea.
Okay, so I think overall we had some issues with delivery, so I think that's going to bring down the score a little bit, probably closer to 3. So I'll go over that in just a minute. I noticed some problems. Some of the longer syllable words in there, you're not quite sure on the word stress. You're not always clearly pronouncing all those syllables. So I think that's an issue. Uh, I think language use, I'm going to listen to it more closely one more time, and topic development. I think those are stronger. I doubt it that this would get 26, to be honest with you. I think you're probably around maybe 23 to 25 points on this one. Okay, let's start from the
The
beginning.
reading passage contains an announcement about the new refund.
Okay, let's go back to that T sound. I think you're doing a little bit better with that.
The reading passage contains an announcement
Yeah, contains, contain. So make that vowel, carry that longer vowel, contains, contains.
about the new refund policy in school, and the speaker
About the new refund policy. Now, sometimes verbs, MS, we can put stress on the first or the second syllable, but if we put it on the first syllable, it means it's a noun. For example, I got a refund from the government on my taxes last season. Refund. The government will refund my money. So if you say refund, that's a noun. If you say refund, that's going to be a verb there. So I think you want to say refund. You need to make that stress, that first syllable more stressed than the second one. That's going to help make you more
in
intelligible.
the lecture disagrees with those changes. First of all, the reading passage explains that there will only be 3 reasons by which a student can ask for a 100% refund policy, which are either
They're not asking for the policy, they're asking for the refund. So there's 3 reasons by which a student can ask for a refund, right? There's no need to put policy there. Or there's a policy, you could say, there's a policy by which students can ask for a refund. You could say something like that.
a written statement from a doctor signed by him
So that was a language use issue I was giving you feedback on there.
in case of illness, or a death
Now, I would say make the one statement, then make the second statement, and then put or and do the third statement. You don't have to use or twice. And remember that when you say um, there's 3 reasons by which a student can ask for a refund. Well, according to the policy, there are 3 reasons by which a student can ask for a refund. And I would say number 1, state that one. You'll state number 1, then state number 2, and then state number 3. Now, I think my dog wants to meet you here. Hold on a minute. This is, I hate to even tell you, but this is my dog, Freddie. He heard me talking to you and he came over and he jumped up. Can you say hi to MS? Say hi. Now, Freddie, he wants you to pass the TOEFL. He wants you to pass the speaking section, right, Freddie? Okay, let me put him back. Okay, so what you're trying to do right here is very complicated, right? You're making a statement, you're introducing the three important parts of the policy by which a student can ask for a refund. So when you state each policy, make sure you have a rising tone when you get to the end. It's kind of like items in a series. I like apples, bananas, and oranges, right? So with each statement, you have rising tone and have a really good pause right after that first policy you mentioned, then state the second policy, and then the third. Yeah, this is not easy to do what you're trying to handle here. This is very complex grammar. It really is.
Certificate that's verified, or a military duty order that's verified. After
I think the tone wasn't bad. Let me listen to that one more time.
only be three reasons by which a student can ask for a 100% refund policy, which are either a written statement from a doctor signed by him in case of illness, or
That's good. So you had your rising tone, you have a pause, maybe a slightly longer pause at the
a
end.
death certificate that's verified, or a military duty order that's verified. After the end of
Good. And then you have that final drop in tone at the end of the third one.
the second week of classes, the students can file for 90% reimbursement. After the
students can, you saying file? Let me make sure I'm getting this.
week of classes, the students can file for 90% reimbursement.
Yeah, you're not putting enough stress on that verb. So this is a sentence rhythm issue. So verbs, nouns, adjectives, and adverbs, these are content words. These meaningful words need to be stressed more than what we call grammatical words, things like determiners, prepositions, and auxiliary verbs. So put more stress on those content words.
After the end of the fourth week, students are eligible for only 50%
Are eligible for, you're not quite pronouncing that word as clearly as you need to, that adjective.
reimbursement. After the end of the fourth week, students are eligible for only 50%.
So what is that? I got to figure that out. So you're kind of backgrounding these verbs. You're not putting the stress on the verbs that really you need to, and these verbs are important because they describe the action of the subjects in your sentences. So you need to pay special attention to the verbs that you're speaking. Maybe a little bit better with that.
Second of all, the speaker in the passage disagrees with those reasons. The speaker mentions that this is not enough.
Wait a minute. You kind of have a run on there. If you're not pausing enough from the one sentence to the next. Listen to
At the end of the
this.
fourth week, students are eligible for only 50%.
They're only eligible for 15% or 50% or 15%. Depends on what you're trying to say there. Let me listen again.
Reimbursement. After the end of the fourth week, students are eligible for only 50%. Second of
See, I think you want to say 50. If you want to say 50%, you want to put more stress on the first syllable. Now, if you want to say 15, you'll say 15%. So again, a word stress issue is coming up. So be careful. I'm seeing a bit of a pattern here. So, and they're all related to delivery. Okay, how about this, MS? I want you to repeat these words with me. Let me give you some numbers. Okay, let's start with 13. We'll go all the way up to 19. Okay, here we go. 13, 30. 14, 40. 15, 50. 16, 60. 17, 70. 18, 80. 19, 90. So with numbers of 10, put stress on the first syllable. With numbers of 10, put stress on the second syllable. Now, repeat this. Let's try the word refund. Let's say it as a noun, as a verb. Refund. Refund. How about conduct? Conduct. How about concert? Concert. Now let's try that one verb you had trouble with. Eligible. Eligible. Some students are eligible for financial aid. All right, let's keep going.
The speaker in the passage disagrees with those reasons. The speaker mentioned
Now, wait a minute. Let me go back. I want to look at those two sentences one more time.
week of classes, the students can file for 90% reimbursement. After the end of the 4th week, students are eligible for only 50%. Second of all, the speaker in the passage disagrees with those reasons. The speaker mentions that this
The speaker disagrees with those reasons the speaker mentions. How about the speaker disagrees with those reasons because? So instead of saying the speaker, that's a bit repetitive. You want to combine those two sentences to create a more complex sentence. That's going to show better syntactic variety, I think, on the TOEFL exam on the speaking section. And it's a little bit smoother. So you don't want too many short, simple type sentences there that kind of lowers the educational level of your speaking, and it doesn't sound as academic. It sounds more conversational. I don't think that's the tone you want here.
is not enough and that the school should look into the cases by one-on-one cases. She gave the example.
How about they should look at each case? They should look at each individual case one by one, you might say.
Of her mom falling sick, what can happen? She will lose eligibility for tuition refund? No, that's not logical. There needs to be more adaptability according to her. And she says that the policy is too rigid like that. Therefore, these are the reasons why the speaker believes this is not a good idea.
Okay, so let's take a look here. Give me a quick second. I want to put together a short lesson for you here. Okay, let's take a look here. So I put together some ideas based on what I noticed in your practice test, right? So I'm going to go over some things with you here. You can kind of practice with me. Okay, so I had Chad help me put together some things here. Okay, so let's talk about word stress. So I mentioned about numbers of 10 and numbers of 10, right? So let's do some practice here for a minute. So we have teen numbers. Repeat these. 13, 14, 15. So you're stressing the second syllable. How about TY, numbers of 10, 30, 40, 50. So you're stressing the first syllable there. Okay, so let's do some pronunciation practice here. Say each pair is a contrast. 30, 13, 40, 14, 50, 15, 70, 17, 90, 19. So how about this? So I want you to tell me which word you think I'm saying here. Let's do 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, 30. 2, 15. 3, 90. So did you get that? So with the first one, I said 30, then I said 15, and then I said 90. Okay, let's practice both to show the contrast. 30, 13, 50, 15, 90, 19. Now let's talk about word stress on verbs. Verbs are super important in a language. They describe the action of the subject, and therefore, because they're so important, we need to put a lot of stress on those things. So we have English is called a stressed time language, right? And here are some examples. English, German, Mandarin Chinese, Swedish, Norwegian, and Dutch. These are what we call stressed time language. Now, syllable time languages, things like Finnish, Icelandic, Cantonese, French, Italian, Spanish, These are considered syllable time languages. Now, let's take a look at what you see here. I want you to practice pronouncing these simple sentences with me. Number one, the dogs chase cats. The dogs chase the cats. The dogs will chase the cats. The dogs will be chasing the cats. Now, whether I'm saying this one or the one down below here, there's basically 3 stress words in all of these sentences. Again, dogs chase cats. The dogs will be chasing the cats. So we're still stressing 1, 2, 3. Now, why does this matter? English is stress time, which means verbs, which are examples of content words, carry important meaning. So if you're under stressing these types of verbs, your speech is going to sound flat and unclear. And that's what happened in that practice test. It was that verb, the verb refund, actually using that as a noun, but there was a couple of verbs in there, you weren't stressing them. So it wasn't sounding clear enough. So the rule here, in sentences, verbs should receive clear stress unless followed by a more important content word. Okay, so let's do some practice with verbs here. I have the verbs in bold. The professor argues that the plan is unrealistic. The speaker explains why the fee increased. The student complains about parking problems. The researcher found a surprising result. The university plans to expand the program. So it's important here, and you'll notice also that when I said argues, I had a slight pause in these cases. Why did I do that? I'm pausing in this case before the noun clause. That's a dependent clause. So according to what we call thought groups, a dependent clause is its own thought group, and we definitely want to pause right before that. Same thing with the second one. The speaker explains why the fee increased. So we're going to pause right before this noun clause. And this is what's called a prepositional phrase. The student complains about parking problems. So right before the prepositional phrase. The researcher found a surprising result. Now, if you want to really emphasize a verb, you could pause right before this noun phrase, the direct object of the sentence. The researcher found a surprising result. You could do it either way. The university plans to extend the program. And then make sure when you're doing integrated speaking, whenever you're summarizing other people's ideas, try to use stronger verbs in those cases. The speaker says, you could say argues, claims, maintains. Those are stronger. Instead of the student thinks, the student believes, suggests, points out. So this naturally increases stress on verbs because stronger verbs attract more emphasis. Now the next area I want to talk about sentence variety a little bit. This is important too. So be careful about saying things like the speaker believes that tuition is too expensive. The student thinks that. So you have to be careful you're not using too many of these really short sentences and being a little repetitive with your subjects. So let's take a look at some examples of how we can do this that shows a little bit more advanced grammar. So you can use a template, something like although, while, because, plus clause or main clause. You can say, well, the speaker believes tuition is too expensive. The student argues that the university needs the extra funds. Or because a professor agrees with the policy, he proposes a different solution. So you're using a complex sentence to kind of combine those two sentences. So instead of having the two shorter sentences here, right, you're combining those to create these more advanced sentences. So I think that's important for your syntactic variety. So instead of saying the speaker believes, you don't want to repeat that type of kind of phrase too much. You can say things like according to the speaker points out that, the speaker emphasizes that. You can use those as examples. It might look something like this. According to the speaker, tuition increased because of rising facility costs. Or meanwhile, the student argues that the school should cut expenses instead. You see how that works? So we're kind of combining things and kind of creating a little bit better syntactic variety, a little bit more advanced grammar there. Okay, let's talk about connectors. So there's different types of connectors that we have in English grammar. We have the transition words, things like therefore, as a result, consequently. We have the subordinating conjunctions, kind of like I was showing you, although, even though, because, and while. We even have what we call coordinators. I call them one of the fanboys. Coordinators are fanboys, FANBOYS, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. How easy is that to remember? So if you're using a variety of connectors, that is subordinators, coordinators, and transition words, that's definitely going to shake up your sentence style. It's going to look good in both speaking and writing. Okay, let's look at these connectors. I call these transition words. Notice how they create two sentences. The speaker believes tuition is too expensive. However, the student thinks the increase is necessary. Or the speaker believes tuition is too expensive, semicolon. However, the student argues the increase is necessary. Okay, so how about this? Let's practice using correct verb stress, sentence variety, and then use the correct numbers with the correct stress. Okay, let's see if you can do this. Model answer. Or how about the prompt first? The university plans to raise tuition by 14% next year. In a conversation, a student opposes a plan while the university representative supports it. Explain the two positions. So here's the model answer, and you can practice. You'll hear me read it, and then you can practice it when I'm done. So the key is practice it, and let's see how long it takes. So I want to make sure you don't feel like you're too rushed. You're not trying to do it too quickly. You're doing it at a good speaking rate. I'm going to show you the speaking rate. Here we go. I'll time it. According to the representative, the university needs additional funds because maintenance costs have increased by 14%. He explains that without the raise, several student services would be cut. However, the student argues that tuition is already too high. She points out that many students work 30 hours a week just to cover expenses. Because she believes the university should find alternative revenue sources, she strongly opposes the proposal. So that took about 33 seconds. See if you can do that. Try to read it naturally, not too fast, not too slowly. You want to read it in about 32, maybe 35 seconds, something like that. All right. Anyway, thank you very much for your practice test. So remember, I'm estimating your score to be about 23 to 25 points on this. You did have a few problems, it turns out, with delivery. You had some minor problems with language use, and that's why I kind of prepared this short lesson for you.